In his time, Louis Riel was called upon to organize our people, the Métis people.
Tonight, Louis Riel is remembered on the day of his death 138 years ago.
The next role, the key role for the AFN National Chief will be to go out and meet chiefs and encourage them to come back to Assembly.
We continue our interviews with the candidates for National Chief.
That's all we ever wanted, was to be able to change the system.
And a First Nation in Manitoba is helping families of missing and murdered relatives with a new foundation. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Today marks 138 years since the execution of Louis Riel, the leader of the Métis and founder of Manitoba, who fought for his nation's rights and identity. In Winnipeg, Manitoba Métis citizens gathered around Louis Riel's gravesite and laid wreaths to pay tribute to him. Riel led two resistance movements against the Canadian government and played a major role in preserving Métis language and culture. Manitoba Métis Federation Minister of Housing Will Guidon led the wreath-laying ceremony.
It's this idea of understanding what it means to be courageous, what it means to be, he didn't ask to be a hero, but we needed one, and he became that for all of us. And in spite of the overwhelming odds, he knew that it was the right thing to do, to stand up for what was right.
And about 30 people gathered at Ottawa City Hall on Thursday for a flag-raising ceremony to commemorate the day Métis leader Louis Riel was executed. Fraser Needham has more.
Ottawa Mayor Mark Sutcliffe and Métis National Council President Cassidy Caron both helped raise the infinity symbol flag in front of City Hall. Caron said Riel was a strong advocate and organizer for his people, and for this he paid the ultimate price with his life.
In his time, Louis Riel was called upon to organize our people, the Métis people, because organizing at that time and continuously today was the only shot that we had at remaining Otapem Miswak, which is to be self-governing, to be our own bosses, to be the ones who own ourselves. And Louis Riel was killed for that organizing.
Riel was executed by Canada on November 16, 1885. Caron said if Riel were alive today, he would be disappointed Métis rights are still not fully recognized, but he would also be proud of what has been achieved.
He would want us to celebrate the successes that we have accomplished as a Métis nation. He would want us to be proud that we continue to organize, that we continue to organize ourselves in his honor, to carry out his legacy.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, a ceremonial pipe has been returned to the Whitecap Dakota First Nation in Saskatchewan after 138 years. The pipe belonged to Chief Whitecap, a Dakota chief who was accused of treason as part of Louis Riel's council during the Northwest Rebellion. Whitecap was acquitted. A Canadian militia officer kept the pipe after a ceremony in 1885 while Whitecap was detained. It was donated to the Royal Canadian Military Institute and loaned to the Fort York Historic Site, where it's been for the last 9 decades. During a ceremony on November 10th, the pipe was returned to the Whitecap First Nation. The Western Development Museum in Saskatoon will be its new home.
It's coming back to its rightful place, and as part of the reconciliation process, that much more timely to bring the pipe back to Whitecap and to the community.
Well, it's one of the last communities in Quebec to still be using diesel generators, even though it's down the road from a Quebec hydro reservoir. But after decades of neglect, the work of connecting the Algonquin community of Kitsisakik to the Hydro-Quebec network has finally begun. Maricela Amador has more.
Quebec politicians, along with Hydro-Quebec representatives, descended on Kitsisakik to mark the beginning of the Animiki Ishkote project. The first phase? To install electrical panels in every home. As of now, about 50 households have been modernized, representing half of the community.
C'est historique, puis c'est une fois dans la vie. Fait que je remercie aussi à mon chef, puis au conseil aussi de se bâtir. Ça fait longtemps, ça fait des années. Puis là, aujourd'hui, où ce qu'on en est, c'est une grande fierté à vivre. C'est pas juste pour Kitsisakik, mais pour les autres communautés qui voient de l'espoir aussi.
Because Kitsisakik is not a recognized reserve, they've had to rely on costly diesel generators to power their homes. The province's Indigenous Affairs Minister, Ian Lafreniere, noted that the work so far shows a concrete gesture on behalf of the government. He also emphasized the government's commitment to partnering with First Nations in the shift to green energy.
Je vous dirais cependant, depuis 2-3 semaines, il y a plusieurs communautés qui sont venues nous voir, moi, mon collègue Pierre Fitzgibbon, qui veulent développer des projets, mais ils veulent les faire comme partenaires. Ils ne veulent pas être témoins, ils ne veulent pas voir ce qui arrive, ils veulent être partenaires, que ce soit de l'éolienne, que ce soit des mini-centrales. Donc, il y a plusieurs possibilités, on va les faire avec eux.
Because he spends most of his monthly income on gas, community member Jacko Ponisway is anticipating the arrival of electricity. But he worries about the impact it will have on the community's way of life.
J'espère juste que les plus jeunes, les prochaines générations, comment je pourrais dire ça? Ils ne dépendront pas trop de l'électricité pour rester à la maison. Puis il faut aussi les faire sortir. Il va falloir trouver des projets aussi pour les faire sortir, organiser plusieurs activités.
Oui, il y a d'autres projets. Oui, on va travailler ensemble.
Many of the community's 400 members still wonder why it has taken 40 years to get electricity, especially since there is a Hydro-Quebec dam that cuts through the middle of Kitsisakik. Jimmy Papatsi, the town's director of infrastructure and natural resources, explained that for many years, the relationship with the public utility has been tense.
Quand on regarde Hydro-Québec, les premiers travaux, c'est quand ils ont construit le barrage de lac d'Ozois. Ils ont tout simplement tassé les Autochtones qui vivaient le long de la rivière. Ça s'appelait Wigosibi. On suivait les poissons. Nous, on vivait déjà là.
Hydro-Quebec's explanation is that the dam was never designed to generate electricity. The work, which started this summer, is scheduled for completion in 2025. Hydro-Quebec is footing the $32 million bill. Kitsisakik Council Chief Reginald Belrose hopes that the new relationship with Hydro-Quebec will lead to more development for his community.
C'est la prochaine étape qu'on va devoir regarder pour la communauté, c'est d'avoir accès à l'eau potable. On regarde à l'heure actuelle tous les avenues qui pourraient être qu'on a autour.
Kitsisakik members must still buy bottles or boil water taken from the community center. Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Kitsisakik, Quebec.
A new foundation for supporting children and families affected by missing and murdered Indigenous people has launched in Manitoba. The John James Tanner Legacy Foundation will be developed and led by Gambler First Nation, located west of Winnipeg. The First Nation started the charity off with a large donation of $1 million. The money will go towards supporting the grieving family members of missing and murdered Indigenous people through educational, financial, and psychological assistance. The Foundation's board of directors will include some First Nations leaders, such as Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kathy Merrick. At a press conference, Merrick said the Foundation marks a significant moment in history for the cause.
Our commitment to justice for our relatives involve tangible efforts, from community-driven initiatives to building support networks and advocating for systematic change. That's all we ever wanted, was to be able to change the system, that we be able to bring forefront the issues of our missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's not just about rewriting a narrative. It's about actively engaging in the crucial work needed to address the root causes of MMIWG crisis.
Time for a quick break, and then we'll continue our conversations with the candidates for National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. Stick around. Welcome back. As the temperature drops and winter creeps in, the stakes for survival become even higher for the unhoused in Yellowknife. One non-governmental organization says they're doing their best amid growing demands and dwindling funds. APTN's Charlotte Moore-Jacobs brings us this story for us tonight.
Fraser Thrasher has been living in his truck for over 2 weeks. He's a former client of the Salvation Army's 32-bed transitional program in Yellowknife, Bailey House. But after 4 years, his stay is up.
They are under no obligation to help you find accommodation. When I came here, transition house, you're supposed to go on to something better. I'm sitting here at 62 years plus with a few medical issues that are legit: severe osteoarthritis, CPAP machine, diabetic medicine. I have not used none of them for over a week.
Thrasher is a residential school survivor from the Beaufort Delta. He lives on $830 a month disability payment. He would get more, but his Inuvialuit beneficiary money is counted as income and gets clawed back.
The government made these land claims, but the territorial government doesn't want to honor the federal government's wishes. So basically, when I'm on income support, every little check I get from land claims and I have no control on it, guess what? We owe the government more money.
Thrasher says he's not eligible to rent because he owes $1,500 in arrears to YK Housing. He's not alone. According to latest 2023 numbers from Housing NWT, the total rental arrears debt is sitting at over $11.5 million. Territorial policy makes it difficult when you owe money. Clients at Bailey House can stay for 3 years. That can go up to 4 years max. Salvation Army Director Tony Brushett says the staff at Bailey House prepare clients to move out months in advance, helping find housing.
It gets into a legal piece, and once you start getting into year 4, it almost comes down to something similar to squatters' rights when people go in on property. Then we could be forced into a landlord, type of a deal.
The Salvation Army is the only emergency shelter men can access in Yellowknife, but they don't have the capacity nor the funding to keep clients during the day.
They're doing what they do all day. Another piece that's missed when you're dealing with the shelters is there's no programming. There's no way to do programming for them, so that's the missing piece. When they come back again 7 o'clock tonight, most have had a bad day. Now we're going to warehouse all these people together. Our shelter's always 120, 130, 140% full.
Tonight, James Picard will find an open apartment building and sleep in the laundry room.
I see a lot of people sleeping in the banks and they have nowhere else to go. Yeah, I'm a little bit more, resourceful. I even poked a hole in one of the hoses so I could drink some water and take my medication.
He's on long-term disability from a traumatic brain injury. He can't afford the $2,400 rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the NWT capital. Picard briefly stayed at the shelter, but says he left because he fears for his safety.
I recorded the situation that happened where a man there threatened to bomb the place, threatened to kill everybody with a gun, and came at me with what seemed to be a pair of scissors or long-nosed pliers as a stabbing weapon.
Based on the latest figures from 2021, there are over 300 homeless people in Yellowknife. Living in his truck has taken a toll on Fraser.
Everything changed and deteriorated. I started going back to my old lifestyle of under so much stress and pressure that I started caving into using drugs and alcohol like I used to.
Due to an election media blackout, APTN was unable to ask NWT Housing about the matter. Charlotte Mart-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Important story there. Thanks, Charlotte. Well, there's less than 3 weeks left in the election campaign for National Chief of the AFN. We're speaking with all of the candidates ahead of the December 6th vote. Our guest today is Reginald Belrose, who came in second for National Chief in 2021. Belrose was a longtime chief of Saskatchewan First Nation in Saskatchewan. We spoke to him earlier today. Reginald Belrose, thanks for being with us. It's been a tumultuous year for the Assembly of First Nations with the former National Chief's removal this summer and claims of bullying and harassment within the organization. What do you think needs to be done for the AFN to move forward?
Well, greetings and thank you for having me. The first thing I believe we need the Chiefs of Canada to come back to Assembly. The next role, the key role for the AFN National Chief will be to go out and meet chiefs and encourage them to come back to Assembly. The second area is to focus on Resolution 13, the committee that was struck to study, and they come out with some findings, and a lot of it's damaging to how the women are being treated in the workplace. So that's a good component of a large part of the staff, and this is a good place to start this rebuilding with Resolution 13. They've examined the work environment and it's not good. United Nations Declaration 22.2 calls to ensure that women and children enjoy the protection of and safety and violence against discrimination. So that's where I want to focus, and it's important that we do this as a collective.
There are a number of First Nations people, of course, who say that the AFN no longer has their best interests at heart. What would you say to those people, and how would you improve relations between the AFN and the people it says it represents?
Yeah, well, I guess prefaced earlier, the chiefs are important. They're the most important leaders in the country, and they need to be a part of the process. A good rebuild also is to look at the agenda that the AFN goes through when the chiefs meet. It's not enough time to discuss the real issues. Chiefs get 3 minutes at the mic. Presenters get 30 minutes. We need to reverse that. The Prime Minister comes, he does his spiel, and he walks out after one question. Right? So we need to control the agenda. It's our agenda. The chiefs need to bring forward what they're dealing with, and that's really what I'm promoting, is that if we do get back in touch with the objectives of the First Nations in the country, it should be a good agenda that chiefs leave feeling we've accomplished something. And the main thing we need to accomplish is standing together and uniting.
What would be your highest priorities for the AFN if elected national chief?
Well, it's to bring stability. I was elected chief for nearly 17 years, and it's stable. That you need stability, you need credibility, you need to ensure that you are conducting yourself in a good manner. You're professional. You've got the vision. You're bringing forward the mandate of the chiefs through resolution each and every day. What I've done is I've dedicated this campaign to the children, the future. We've got children, First Nation children, who are denied their status number because of bureaucracy. So grandmothers and caregivers are paying for prescriptions. We got to think of the children. They're our future right now, and we talk about economic development, environmental sovereignty. Those need to be done with the best interest of the children and the future in mind.
Reginald, again, if elected national chief, what would you like to see the AFN accomplish in the first year?
Well, we got to get rebuilding first year. I mean, that's really, right now the funding has been cut or frozen, or I'm not sure exactly where, but the funding is not flowing the way it should. So that's really where you got to focus on. Where's the funding? What do we need to do to get that funding flowing? Because there's much demands for, and there's really a whole lot of work that needs to happen. Capacity needs to be there. Your experts, you need all of the traditional knowledge keepers, the youth, LGBTQ plus community, all these different important factions and not factions, but important rights holders across the country. They need to come together and buy in, like the hearing impaired. Now we have translators there for them. The French, a lot of the chiefs in Quebec don't feel included in the process. So I've been reaching out to Quebec chiefs. We need you here. You have addictions problems. You have social crisis. Plus you also have economic opportunity. So we got to find that place, that platform where it's inclusion for all.
Reginald Belrose, we'll have to leave it there, but best of luck to you in the campaign, and appreciate you taking time for us.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
And you can find the interviews we've already done with the candidates, Sheila North and David Pratt, over on our APTN News YouTube page. And we'll be continuing those the rest of the week. Well, it's almost over this week. It's Thursday, and that means a new episode of Nation to Nation is up right after tonight's newscast. We'll get a preview after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. The majestic environment of the Skeena River within the Gitxsan Nation here is captured by Clarence Jones. Thanks, Clarence. We'd like to see your territory. You can send that picture to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at Friday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 9 in Halifax, 11 for Fredericton. Snow and +2 in Kuujjuaq, 0 with snow in Nain. 15 in Montreal, -1 with snow in Val-d'Or. +5 with flurries in Sault Ste. Marie, 8 above for North Bay. +2 and snow in Thunder Bay, snow and 0 for Sioux Lookout. 0 in God's Lake, +1 in Norway House. 5 above in Winnipeg, +4 for Dauphin and Brandon. 3 above in Regina, sun's out, and 9 above in Saskatoon. 6 in Meadow Lake, 4 for Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, quite warm in some spots, 11 for Grand Prairie, 9 in Peace River. 13 above in Edmonton and Calgary, 10 in Lethbridge. 9 in Vancouver, 10 above in Victoria. 7 in Prince George, +8 in Smithers. -12 with snow in Old Crow, +2 in Whitehorse. -12 for Yellowknife, 13 below in Norman Wells. Snow and -8 for Sax Harbor, 11 in Paulatuck. -16 with snow in Chesterfield, 17 below in Baker Lake and Whale Cove. -9 in Resolute, 14 below with snow in Joe Haven. Time to head over to our Ottawa studio now. That's where Annette Francis is standing by with a look at tonight's Nation to Nation.
Coming up after the news on Nation to Nation, the Northwest Territories election was this week. MLA Lisa Semler is one of the few incumbents to be re-elected. She talks about the challenges and priorities moving forward.
Our seniors, they're on fixed incomes. They can't afford to stay in their own homes, but we have a shortage of housing, like we have a housing crisis. And where are they supposed to move?
And we'll hear more about why Ontario First Nations continue to oppose the Métis self-government legislation. All this and more on tonight's episode.
Thanks, Annette. You can catch Annette and Nation to Nation in less than 90 seconds from now. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. There's much more over on our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy, thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow.